Hey, whoa, yes, it's me, Dominic DeAngelo of WrestlingInc.com. But I am here on WrestleZone.com to do two, but it's just one for the moment, Dynamite Dudes with the DeAngelo brothers. I'm one of the DeAngelo brothers. Marcus will be here in soon. He said he's going to be late, so he will be joining us soon enough. Wow, big timing us already on our return back to the show. Jeez Louise. Yes, but I'm here, and we're here to talk some AEW action going down. Hello to everybody. We are live, and we will be taking questions here and throughout the rest of the show. As I get caught up on a lot of different things. It's been a while. It's been some time. Over a month I looked since we were last on. And it's good to see folks back in here like Nesha, John Howard, Stephen Chambers, who is having a birthday. Happy birthday, Stephen. And yes, so let's join in on the time happening here. Yes. So let's I mean there's a lot to cover. Marcus and I have not been on for well over a month, and a lot has happened in that month. Holy cats, from Forbidden Door to Claudio Castagnoli showing up to an interim champion is crowned. We also have Death Before Dishonor coming up. Geez, and hey, we kicked it off this Wednesday with Wardlow becoming the new TNT champion. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think that this is the right step moving forward with Wardlow? I was getting very good vibes. I was getting Goldberg United States champion vibes kind of from all this. I thought it was it's the right move. A lot of the things I was a little conscientious and curious of like, is Wardlow's shine starting to wear because of just the situation surrounding not just with MJF, but the positioning that he's being put in. I was not a fan of the whole plaintiffs thing. I was kind of excited to see it, but the execution of it left a lot to be desired, and I did not like that. And I was curious, were the fans going to turn on it, turn on him, turn on the whole angle, turn on his build? It didn't want. By all accounts, Rochester was wild for Wardlow, and I think he's right on the right direction and on the right path. I know Marcus should be fired. I agree with that. Yeah, Wardlow's money, I think. Man, a lot of good people tuned in. John Howard, DJ, everybody's back. The gang's back together, everybody. You gotta love it. But yeah, I think the match that they had, Scorpio Sky, I think the setup for hold on, I'm grabbing my water. I think the setup for it being a street fight. And a lot of it, I think, was just positioning to give Wardlow some fodder, right? Like America's Top Team, you had Dan Lambert on there being a degenerate as usual. You had Ethan Page being on ringside. So I think this was like tools of the trade to kind of utilize and get Wardlow over and furthermore. Hot potato in the TNT title. I was kind of like for certain aspects of it. I was going to be like, okay, if you're going to give somebody like Scorpio Sky this title back, like give him a run. He deserves it. Position him in the right way and make it happen. But like, again, it got hot potatoed. I don't want to say it's damaged, but you have to build it back up. You got to build the TNT title back up. And I think if you put it on Wardlow, make him hold it for a long while, make him not lose it. So like, I'll use the example of MLW with Alexander Hammerstone. He started off the National Openweight Champion, which is basically, if you wanted to make a comp, the TNT title for Major League Wrestling. And he was the inaugural champion, and he never lost it. And he went to become the MLW World Champion, beating Jacob Fatu. And then that's when he relinquished that title. So I think if you're going to do that in AEW, I think you should do that with Wardlow. Same trajectory, makes plenty of sense. Goldberg did not lose his United States title either. This just makes perfect sense to kind of do with Wardlow. If you don't want him to win the world title for a long time, do that, but don't have him lose the TNT title, because you want to keep the prestige of having that championship and make him slay some massive dragons that are on his level, or like even like bigger. Like, you have to have him knock some credible stars out. And if that means like somebody like I'll just try to think of some people like Bryan Danielson, a Jon Moxley down that road when they're not champions. Then you do it, because I think in the grand scheme of things, if you want to build homegrown talent, Wardlow is a homegrown start for AEW. I mean, he went to the ICW, or wait, no, I'm sorry, IWC, the International Wrestling Cartel, which is based out of Pittsburgh. Right? So we over here are familiar with them, but this is basically Wardlow's company. So build him, make it happen. But yes, Wardlow versus Brian Cage. See, now that would be a good start. That'd be a very good start, John Howard. Brian Cage, he was kind of almost a Wardlow vibe, right? We were kind of thinking when he came in, and then he just wasn't utilized for whatever reason, and however it happened. I know. So you guys got to help me out here a little bit. So I know Tully Blanchard showed up on Rampage, but I did not watch Rampage. And to be forthright too, I did not watch all of Dynamite. I was catching up here just a little right before, as I was bouncing between doing social media work and all that bullshit, whatever. But yes. Did Brian Cage show up here? Was he in the fold here? Was there with Tully Blanchard? Was he shown? Because I saw him with the two big guys that Tully Blanchard's running with now. And so look at Nesha says she was gonna fire both if you hadn't been on today. Yep, I know, right? I mean, it's high time to do it. Let's see what Richard Mercer said. I'd love to see Wardlow do open challenge every week and build back up. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to do it. Good thing to get started with him. I think it's very. I think it's kind of imperative to do in a lot of ways. Because that's what the identity of the TNT title really was too, with like Cody Rhodes defending it every week, and then Darby Allin picked that up. I think even Brody Lee, when he had it, did a little bit as well. So, I think you have to establish that identity, and to kind of go off on that. There was the All Atlantic title. That was another thing that happened since Marcus last on, was that the All Atlantic title got introduced and won and crowned a champion. So Pac is that champion. And I know Tony Khan said, I want to say, what podcast was he on? It might have been like the Masked Man podcast, the one through the Ringer, I think it was, where he mentioned that the plan is to have Pac defend that overseas. So, I mean, I was kind of against having another singles title that, is just kind of like, okay, it's in the mix, but like, hey, you only have one show that you're running here. I mean, you have Rampage and stuff like that, but you have subtitles that you want to keep selected. You don't want to oversaturate the market, especially if you're introduced to trios title, maybe a mixed tag, I don't know, kind of championship. But this one I can get behind this one a little bit. If you're defending it overseas and it's more so like an international kind of belt, which it's giving that vibe, obviously. The whole tournament had that kind of vibe. So, but yeah, if you can hear my cat, that's Razor, my new cat. Dusty since passed away. But Razor is following in his footsteps. He was meowing and also being a positive distraction, I would say, on the show. But let's get some comments in here while we wait for Degenerate Brother Marcus. Try to pull these up. What's this whole interface is acting weird right now. Jeez. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. I'm gonna wait. I gotta be patient here. But yes, I think kicking it off with Wardlow was a good step. A really good step. Let's see. I prefer. Yeah, I agree with you, Nesha. I mean, if I had to pick between one of the All Atlantic title in the trios, like one of those happening, I think it would have been more for the trios, just because you have the surplus of talent on your card, and if you want to position some of them in the right way, made sense. You had a lot of factions, but in that same light, they've kind of pushed the factions to the back burner a little bit, right? You do have the Blackpool Combat Club, and you have the Jericho Appreciation Society, and I think, the Andrade Family Office, you don't really hear about that. They seem to kind of dispersed, right, with Roosh coming in and everything like that. So, maybe the lack of factions now kind of doesn't make sense maybe to have a trios almost. So, but initially I would do, well, look at this. Look at who we have here. He's coming in, making, to tie into my other show, the Hot Tag. We got Marcus coming in if he pops up here. I don't know what's going on with my interface here. This is kind of weird. Oh, here we go. Well,
I'm here, man.
Wow.
Oh, well, hello.
I gotta do all this adjusting on the fly here. With the thanks, Marcus, for gracing us with your presence.
Oh, man, I knew that I was going to bail, but I was like, this show is going to absolutely suck if I'm not involved.
If you're not here.
Right.
Well,
so here I am, Dom.
Wow, it's an honor and privilege to have you, Marcus, of Ad Free Shows, a man of many hats over there. Join me, this lowlife, this scum of the earth, just trying to make ends meet by wearing a lot of hats, but for a lot of different outlets. I thank you.
Dom, you're rambling. Well, what are we talking about here?
We were talking about Wardlow as the TNT champion and kicking off Dynamite in that manner. What did you think of all that, Marcus?
Well, I'll tell you this, Dom. I've been wanting to record for weeks, and you just keep ducking me, dodging. We've missed out on a lot.
Hey, we're talking about Wardlow here now.
Plenty of topics. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Wardlow, it's I think it's great. Obviously the guy's got a great look, great size, great ability, which is they're all things that we've kind of gone over. Now it just comes down to what do you do with him? Is like you've got this kind of unstoppable monster situation going on. Inevitably, eventually, people will turn against it if you do this for too long. So they've kind of worked themselves into an interesting situation with it. Very much the same as Jade Cargill, right? So it should be interesting to see how it goes. Nesha already fired me today, but she missed me. Appreciate it, Nesha. Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to see you. It's been a while.
You gotta wish Steven a happy birthday too.
Steven Chambers, happy birthday, man. Glad we could give you this pitiful excuse for a birthday gift by getting together to do this podcast. For what, Dom? How long has it been? Like 5 weeks?
It's been over a month. So I think July. Well, it's July right now. So it was like June, very early June, we last did a show.
I need everybody to know that that's not because of me. It's literally all because of Dominic. I was pretty much ready to record that entire time.
I have to say Marcus was ready to roll. He was ready to roll. This was on me these past couple of weeks. So fire me. If you want to fire somebody, fire me.
5 weeks, Dom. 5 weeks. We gotta get specific. But yeah, no, it's it's just that's a conundrum you find yourself in. John Howard's saying, let's get Wardlow versus Big Show. I mean, let me tell you, if you want to build this guy, have him beat the shit out of the Big Show. Have him beat the shit out of Mark Henry, to John's point again. Brody King, another great one. The DJ saying maybe Brody King dethrones him. What I would like to see down the road is the Wardlow's this unstoppable force, so it's like I think it'd be interesting to see him against Jon Moxley, another dude who's like this kind of a kick-ass guy. How about Claudio Castagnoli? I would like to see Claudio be the one to maybe unseat him.
Well, let me get your thoughts on this. So if you were booking Wardlow and you wanted to make his trajectory and his rise kind of execute properly, what would you do? What would you do? Because before you jumped on, I gave my pitch, so I want to get your perspective on what you would get. See if it's similar to mine.
Well, I think it's an interesting situation to be in where it's a cool thing and fans are behind it. That it's like he's this monster, he's this undefeated guy. I think it's really easy for fans to change their mind with this kind of thing.
Especially nowadays, you think the current climate of how people consume media is detrimental to how you would book somebody kind of like Wardlow back in when we were growing up, say?
Sure. I mean, because people were getting annoyed with Goldberg when they were seeing him once a week on TV. Now you've got unlimited exposure to Wardlow, all things Wardlow, all the time. It's just, and they can be hyping it. So here's how I would handle this situation, Dominic, and that's I would make his streak last for so long that it did annoy people, and then I would have him play into that. And slowly
turn him heel.
Slowly morph from this fun baby face, hey, this guy's unstoppable, I love this guy, to I cannot fucking wait until this guy loses, because just have him keep winning and have him start to get annoying about it. I will never be beaten. Nobody on this roster is good enough to beat me. And just put him against a guy like CM Punk, where everybody's okay, he's gonna lose to CM Punk. Nope, beats him. Just make him so annoying. And I think it would be a fun way to turn him into a heel.
Wow, I kind of like that, Marcus. That was sort of kind of what I said, but basically, like, I was thinking more of the babyface line and thinking more. And I guess I wasn't thinking more so to the benefit of Wardlow. I was thinking more so to the benefit of the TNT title because it's been hot potatoed, so much as of recently. I don't want to say it's damaged, but like I told everybody here, I was like, they need to definitely reestablish it. I know that much.
Right. Well, hey, Stephen Chambers just said Wardlow reminds me of half Goldberg, half Ryback, and that's not good.
That's not good. You don't want any
right?
Ryback.
No, you don't really want Goldberg. Like, I love Goldberg. You know how I feel about Goldberg, but people were fed up with that shit after like 6 months.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it. So 6 months, he's this unstoppable babyface champion. Everybody loves him. It's great. And then just have him start getting completely fucking obnoxious about it.
Okay, I'm for that. Now, would you have him ultimately lose the title, or would you have him just take it straight Goldberg style, Alex Hammerstone style? Would you have him take it straight to the World Championship, have him hold both titles?
So that would be the CM Punk match in my mind, where now first I would build him and start to do the annoying Wardlow thing, where like once fans start to get visibly annoyed, what would be really fun is if Wardlow started to try to do his own chant. So like got on the mic
like
and started doing Wardlow in the Goldberg type voice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be fucking great. So like as soon as you can start to feel the crowd start to get annoying, have Wardlow play into it by getting on the mic at the end of one of his matches where he beats somebody and start trying to get the audience to get with it. Be like, Wardlow. Like try to get everybody on board, and then so make sure that everybody's good and fucking annoyed. Then get him in a world title match against CM Punk, beats Punk. So now he's the double champion, and he's just cranking it up notch
and
after
he's your
notch.
guy. Like, he's AEW's guy. Like, he's
right.
Who they built, he's who they created. You know what? Here's a little added thing. Would you have this Wardlow? He gets so consumed with himself and and his streak and his titles and all that shit. Would you have him slowly lose his mind?
No, what I would is I like the idea of him being more of like just a calculated asshole, where maybe he gets like, you have like vignettes of him with like an agent where he's like trying to get acting work so he can stop wrestling,
like Hollywood Rock.
Right, which people were annoyed with, right? When the Rock was, because they just wanted more of the Rock. But in this case, it's like have him just say like, "Look, nobody can beat me, so I'm just kind of getting bored, and I'd like to try my hand at acting." Like maybe even get him on some commercials,
like Brock Lesnar, but like Brock Lesnar, how he goes away, and he doesn't show up, or Roman Reigns, how he doesn't show up, but like just lean into that.
Here's the other thing is you work with some of the people who actually like run commercials on Dynamite, work with them and get him into some commercials. And so like you're watching Dynamite and maybe it's like when you have him throw the commercial and be like, and here's my commercial. And it's like him with like fucking Domino's.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like Daryl for those Pizza Hut commercials where like it's ruined a lot of credibility with me with Daryl from The Office, like him being in those Pizza Hut commercials and they're so goddamn annoying. It's just like, all right, get Wardlow doing that shit. How about that? Huh?
Right. So I think that's the move, and just make it seem like, I don't really care about wrestling anymore, and even have him come out and maybe squash somebody and look disinterested the whole time. And oh man, I think that could be fun. That might actually turn him back babyface though, because it would be fun.
Listen, hey, they took our name already. I'll say they embraced the two Dynamite Dudes identity. They fucking used. We were a team at Forbidden Door, but we were Darby Allin, Sting, and the other New Japan guys. How about that?
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about right now.
I'm saying, hey, maybe they kind of listen here.
Well, I don't know what you're saying. What are you saying? Was somebody called the Dynamite Dudes?
Yeah.
What?
You didn't know that?
No.
Marcus, you weren't aware of this.
No. They called it
Darby, Sting, and the New Japan guys, their name at Forbidden Door were the Dynamite Dudes.
Boy, what a fucking ripoff. Dom, have we trademarked this?
Marcus, I fucking tagged you in the tweet when it happened.
I don't think. I think sometimes I just like tweets without reading.
You fuckface.
Well, I'm busy. So
I'm busy too.
I'll see myself tagged in a tweet, and if it's with somebody I trust, I'm just like, "Yep, good tweet."
Yep. But what I'm saying is, hey, if they want to take some more notes, I think this Wardlow idea is pretty darn good.
I'm honestly Tony Khan. I don't have a ton of extra of spare time, with my job. But if Tony Khan wants to throw me if Tony wants to throw me some schmeckles, I'll do some writing for him.
Folks, what you might not know about Marcus, since he's branched away from like his old job, he's got a bit of an ego now.
Yeah,
he humble brags a bit.
This kind of thing is just too easy for me, Dom. I'm thinking about breaking into acting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it takes.
So I'm gonna start recording vignettes of me trying to get acting work. Yes.
So okay.
All right, Dom. Let's acknowledge some of these fucking comments over here.
All right. How about you, man? The comments, because my mouse is acting weird in the whole.
So is mine.
Is it?
So is mine. Is it anybody else's mouse acting weird?
Well, they don't. I don't think they'll have the issue. But when I pull up comments, let me try something. So I'm gonna pull up this one here. Ego. See, look, I clicked on Nesh's comment. There it goes. Ego. Yep. Too good to talk.
All right. Let's get one from the birthday boy here. Steven Chambers. Wonder AEW will call Dutch Mantel to referee Claudio versus Jake Hager. That would be amusing.
That's very interesting. Wow. Yeah. How about that?
I think that could be pretty entertaining. Hassan Terrell is saying my mom got me spaghetti, which I can appreciate. I'm a big spaghetti guy.
What kind of sauce do you like on yours, Marcus? Do you add
Fra Diavolo sauce, Dominic?
Oh, yes. The spice. We love the spice. But Marcus, I mean, this segue here. We love the spice. We have friends of the show, but we also have favorites of the show. And we just talked about them. Since we last recorded, Marcus, fucking Claudio Castagnoli is in AEW. Holy shit.
Dominic, before we talk Claudio, which will probably be the rest of the fucking show, DJ, I want to get to what he had to say here just now.
Okay.
They need to turn the TBS and TNT championships into titles. You can cash in for the world title shots. Thoughts? I think. So,
Impact
I think it devalues the titles. By that I mean you're saying, hey, awesome, I got this belt. Here you go. Take it so that I can get my world title shot. Now on paper, DJ, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. What I would counter with is that if you get the TNT title, and let's say maybe they say if you can hold it for 3 months, you automatically get a world title shot, but you don't hand it in, you just would then hold both titles.
Yeah.
Or they could vacate the TNT title if you win. That would be the only way I would say. So on paper, it's a good idea. I would say you've got to be careful, just because you don't want to devalue the title and say because you want people vying for these titles. Back in the day when Razor Ramon was like Intercontinental Champion, he wanted to be Intercontinental Champion. He wasn't doing promos about.
He wasn't worried about the world title.
Yeah, can't wait till I get the WWF. He was perfectly happy being the best Intercontinental Champion. It made it prestigious. So I think that's sort of the vibe you want to go for when it comes to the TNT and TBS titles. But yeah, I would say you just have that in there. Okay, if you can hold this for 3 straight months, you get a world title shot.
I like that. Yeah, because I mean, Impact has done that with the X Division title. Like they just did that this year, I think, with Josh Alexander. So maybe a little late last year, maybe. But he was the X Division champion, and he literally called it like Plan C or something like that, where he uses the X Division title, puts that up for grabs in favor of getting the world title shot. So, yes. Maybe you could do that with the next division title, but that's like their TNT championship in Impact. So it's like, I don't know. I get it, but I'm kind of with you, Marcus, in the fact that it does diminish it just a touch.
Dominic, Nesha is saying, do Wardlow like Hogan versus Warrior back in the day. So Nesha wants it to be like Halloween Havoc 1998 with the flash paper.
I don't think that's what she's referring to.
No, that's not the one.
No, I don't think that's it.
Oh, okay.
Just that I
are you sure?
I've watched enough wrestling. I don't think that's what she's referring to.
Well, look, and this will make for a good transition. If it was me, if I was the head booker of the company, I would do what I said when it comes to Wardlow. Have him run through everybody, beat all the people, become super fucking annoying. become the world heavyweight champion. And when you finally unseat him, there's one guy that he hasn't wrestled in this entire time. He wrestled everybody else. Give me Kenny Omega. Give me the Bucks in a handicap match. Yeah, like he's just fucking everybody up. But who do you get to finally unseat him? The only person he hasn't wrestled to this point, Claudio Castagnoli.
I agree. I like it.
That's it.
I like it.
That's it. And you would elevate Claudio. Just imagine Claudio giving him the big spin.
Yes.
It's good shit. So Dom, let's talk Claudio. You know how I feel. I've been talking about
well, let me
for
get
years.
this. I want to start from the ground level here, ground zero, where it's okay. Explain your Cesaro / Claudio Castagnoli fandom to the fans here, and like I kind of was along for the ride with this. I mean, like we both love him. He's like one of our favorites. So
right,
go ahead.
It started in WWE, and really, I want to say that it started. When he first came in, I was like, Antonio Cesaro. It's like, okay, seems like a strong guy. I was like, I'm okay, good enough. But I can't remember exactly when it happened, but I know it happened around the time that he and John Cena worked together. And I remember at one point he took John Cena off the ropes, and John Cena's not a small man. He's like 6'2", probably 235. He's a big man.
He might be 6'4", right?
Could be. I don't know. I know he's a big boy. But so took him off the ropes, and he did that pop him up in the air and then catch him with the European uppercut. And like when he popped him up into the air, it looked like John Cena could have grabbed the rigging up there. Like he shot him. He looked like he was 12 feet in the air. There's a picture of it out there somewhere. And then he just like smashed him with that European uppercut. I was like, that was one of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen anybody do in the ring. And then he just continued to wow, dude. Like he started doing that like super slam where he would be on like the second rope and the guy would be on the apron, and he just like the guy's not even jumping, he just like pulls him up and slam. It's like what the fuck? Like how are you doing that? And then the Andre the Giant Battle Royal where he just like picked up the Big Show, and it's like it doesn't make sense to your eyes when you're looking at it. You're like that doesn't look right.
You talk about suspending your disbelief. He does something natural like that, but your disbelief gets dissuspended. Like when you watch it, you're like, "That's not happening. I don't believe this."
Yeah, like where's like those invisible lines on the Big Show? They're like hoisting him up for this. Like it just doesn't look right. So yeah, it's he hooked me back in, I would say, like 2013, somewhere in there. And so I've been a Claudio guy ever since. But here's the thing is like I never watched his work because WWE rather was just unwatchable rubbish. And they kept putting him in dumbass storylines. Like I thought the We the People thing had some potential, and they fucked that whole thing up.
The bar was cool.
The bar was cool.
Him
and Tyson Kidd was okay.
Yeah, that was great. Fact. And then what else did I like? I obviously they paired him with Heyman, and I thought that was going to be awesome, but they didn't run with that either. Or even like his James Bond vibe, where people kind of cringe at that. I thought that had some legs too.
No, I thought that sucked.
Did you?
Yeah. So really, it's his strength is in like the fact that he's one of those guys that, and I've said this on the podcast before, he's one of those guys who like you could pluck him from this timeline and move him to the 60s and he'd fit in pro wrestling. You could pluck him and move him back to the 30s and he works. He fits in pro wrestling. Any era he works and he would be great. And that's what I like about him so much. And that's why I love the idea of an old school Claudio Castagnoli gimmick where he's got like the CC on his tights and, almost like the Brain Busters back in the day where it's like, just like these two very much about business, wrestlers with a flamboyant mouthpiece. So I think a mouthpiece would do him good.
I think though, his promo work is good. Like,
no, it's not bad, but like I would do promos with him like you do with Bruno Sammartino, kind of sparingly. Yeah.
And Bruno could get, Bruno was good enough at a promo that, like, I mean, obviously he's one of the biggest stars of all time, like for wrestling. So, I mean, like he connected with the fans, and I think Claudio has that connection with the fans too,
I think that if they work with Claudio the right way, he could honestly be one of the biggest stars in all of pro wrestling. I really believe that. So just really excited to see what they do. John Howard said the most crazy thing he's ever seen was Ricochet doing the front flip over the top rope onto the floor and landing on his feet.
Yeah, he did crazy shit.
And Ricochet is wild. By the way, John, if you haven't checked out Danny Limelight, friend of the show, was on the show.
Friend of the show.
If you
Ripped
haven't
on
checked
Marcus,
out,
even a better friend then. I can.
yeah, he shit on me because I couldn't make it to the show to interview him.
Mm-hmm.
But John, if you have not seen Danny Limelight of MLW, go out of your way to see Danny Limelight, because that dude he's like another Ricochet. He's unbelievable.
And you want to talk about that too? He's amazing on the mic.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, he's a really good I think
tremendous
if
on
I was
the
starting
mic.
a wrestling company, he'd be one of the guys I'd be looking at.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely, he would. Nesha, yeah, I want to get Nesha's thoughts. She's been watching MLW, so. DJ's got a big message here. Marcus, you're better
DJ.
at reading than I am.
DJ, he said, I don't mind AEW signing Claudio, but their roster is getting way too stacked. Agreed. They are going to have to stop doing all these signings eventually. You can't tell me that Tony Khan has all the blank checkbooks in his pocket. If they sign Sasha and Naomi, they're going to have to start releasing some of their big contracts like MJF, Sting, and who I really hate to say, but Britt Baker would be another one that they would have to release.
Wow.
I don't know about releasing Britt. I think that there's other
I don't know
people on
about
the
releasing
roster that you
Sting.
can.
I don't know any of those names. I mean, you could definitely, if you needed to get rid of people, you could get rid of people, but none of those names, they would not be on my list to get rid of whatsoever.
So look, you can do it. You can make this work. And here's probably how I would approach it with a roster like this. Nesha, yes, he is on MLW. But here's how you do it. Is yes, you cut some of the roster that you aren't using as much of. So that's step one. Step two is that instead of having multiple like pay-per-view quality matches per night, which they're doing now, I would instead do maybe one pay-per-view quality match per night, maybe two, probably two pay-per-view quality matches per night, and start bringing in enhancement talent to put over your big stars and build and do backstage promos. So that would be part of my process. Now here's the last bit of it is that I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
Is that that's my last comment on that, Dominic?
Train of thought,
it's gone.
You seem to be a little bit on a roll, and I was you had my attention, but you also lost my attention.
I'll get it back. Give me a minute.
Okay, but I will say this is the roster is something that I've been wanting to ask Tony Khan. I didn't get a chance to ask him at the Double or Nothing press conference, and then I was not at Forbidden Door, so I could not ask him because I wasn't there.
Just remember the last bit. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The last bit is, so wrestling fans love surprises, right? We all love seeing new people show up and like, holy shit, those moments. And I think that you can still do that. However, how you do that is that you bring people in the same way that you did with Juventud Guerrera and Nick Gage, where like
they do a one-off kind of thing.
One-offs, and you can do it with guys like hey, okay, you can't come to terms, can't agree with Karrion Kross long term. Just bring him in for a night, have him work with somebody. Same thing with like Matt Cardona. Maybe work with him and say like,
Morrissey. They did it with W. Morrissey.
Yep. Let's get Nick Aldis. So like we're still getting all these fun surprises, and you can even do it once a week. And Dom, here's the idea. Here's the idea that I love is the TNT title and the TBS title for that matter. You make it where it's an open challenge every single week. Mm-hmm. And so that way sometimes it will be somebody on the roster, but it's a mystery opponent every week. So the people will be tuning in like, okay, did they get somebody or is it just somebody on the roster this week? And then every once in a while you just freak everybody out by like Nick Aldis comes in and challenges for it,
I like that. I do agree with DJ that the signings are just becoming a lot, and the roster is becoming super duper big. And you do have ROH as a brand, you don't have it as a television show, and you do want to get to that point. But the fact is it's very tough to keep all these stars in your public eye week in and week out, and for people to retain them week in and week out. If you have this surplus of talent that you cannot address all the time, like how many times you think about somebody, be like, oh man, like I forgot about that person who's here. I forgot, I just like Lance Archer. Like I don't forget about him, like because he's one of my favorites. But
I haven't seen him in forever.
Haven't seen him in forever. Jake, you haven't seen Jake in forever. Arn Anderson and his son Brock.
Yeah.
Anthony Ogogo. And just those names, like even QT Marshall just showed up this week. Now I'm saying for this from a perspective of like you want your big stars to feel like big stars. You're not going to have that if you have all these stars on one show. It's a very tough predicament that they're in. And, there can be some workarounds, but honestly, quite frankly, you need an ROH show. You need an ROH show.
I would remove Rampage and make it strictly ROH. And here's why, is that because it's ROH, all of a sudden you've got a new brand, and all of a sudden it's very, very interesting. So like you say, hey, we're doing away with AEW Rampage, but now it's going to be Friday night ROH show X, whatever you call it.
An hour? Would you do it an hour? Would you try to make it 2? Would you make it earlier in the day?
I would try to make it 2 hours. And yes, Friday night is a rough time slot, but I think you can make it work. And I think that wrestling fans are devoted enough that they'd say, holy shit, ROH is rebooting and it's on prime time or whatever, and it's on like a big network. I got to go check it out. Yeah, you could call it ROH Rampage, to John's point. And yes, I would shoot for 2 hours, and I would start dividing up my roster. So yeah, I'm not saying do a draft, but just say like, okay, now Claudio is strictly ROH, which I personally would not like, but he was just an example.
Yeah. Samoa Joe, that's another name. You just completely forget it. Like, geez.
Yeah.
Jay Lethal, like, there's a lot of there's just
honestly, having ROH with some of the vintage ROH talent like Claudio and Daniel Bryan and stuff, I think a lot of people would tune into that on Fridays.
Yeah, you split it up right.
And then you could still generate interest with guys like, Kenny Omega, CM Punk on the other program.
Right. You have some name talent on one and you have name talent on the other. And I mean, that's just all going to boil down to if and when ROH gets a TV deal cooking, Yeah.
Well, as I hope he does it. Stephen Chambers had mentioned earlier a streaming service. I think it's too early.
That's what I was going to say too. If you could get it on HBO Max and make a show exclusive, you could maybe transition Rampage into that. But I'm kind of with you in the regard of if you're able to put Rampage on like TBS or TNT, like one of those, networks that you're a family of, you do that. But like a streaming service, I think is imperative. I think, in the grand scheme of what you want, even if you put Dark and Elevation on there, like just to feed it as YouTube, like it's cool because you see talent show up that you won't see on these other programs, and like almost to your point where they almost quote unquote one-offs. Like Arya Daivari just was on there. Caleb Conley, who is Caleb with a K in Impact, and I loved his work in Impact and stuff like that. Like they show up on there, and that's neat. That makes note too. But like again, you want to position everybody that you can in a certain light to make your product, your brand, and your stars seem like stars. Yep. So
and then you could even wind up down the road then doing a ROH versus AEW pay-per-view. How great would that be? Right. That would be a blast. That could be the name of your next video game, ROH versus AEW. Revenge. Really, there's so many options. I hope that Tony Khan takes advantage of the resources, because I mean, we went off on a tangent there, but I love that Claudio's on this roster, but I'm like, are we gonna see him as often as we want to? Is he gonna get buried on the roster? I really hope not.
I know, it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Something that also has been crazy to think about. Any more what's your thoughts and everything just regarding the whole MGF situation at this moment in time? I mean, it's been well over a month since we recorded, and I don't know if he was left at that point or where he was standing at that juncture, but where are you at on MJF? And just go from there, I guess.
I don't know. It feels like a weird situation to me. I think it started out as a shoot, but it's turning into a work, I guess, would be the best way I could put it. But I don't know. I'm really not sure where it's going or what the story. When's the last time he was on AEW TV? When he swore at Tony Khan, right?
Yeah, that was it. And then they cut his mic, quote unquote, and then he was gone. I mean, I think it's a storyline.
Like I said, I think it started as a shoot, but now it's a work. Dominic DJ says if they build her right with her new faction, I have the perfect person to dethrone Jade Cargill. Can you figure out who I'm thinking of? So a young lady who's just joined a new faction.
Just joined a new faction. Oh, Julia Hart, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if she would work though.
I don't. You know, I think that the fact that she, I think that the fact that she doesn't look like she could work means that she could work. You know, there again though, it's all about building her. You know, right now, I personally, for whatever reason, I kept forgetting that she wore an eye patch. You know, for a while.
Well, then now
so
she's not wearing it.
Right, and now she's not. But it's like she just hasn't had enough exposure for me to give a shit about her at all. So like, you know, that being said, I think that she's talented. DJ saying Tony Storm, sure. You know,
I'm for the camp of like Ruby Soho, like getting a championship here at some point. Like I think it needs to happen, you know. But Athena,
I'm more in the camp of like let Jade Cargill get annoying with it too.
I mean, and the thing is, like, my thing with Jade is she gonna get annoying though with it? Because I think she's good. Like, and like she's already like she went in as the champion as kind of like that heelish, annoying, like, hey, I'm better than you, and you know, you can't do shit about it. You know, cut the shit. And so, like, I think she's already kind of had that. So her holding this title is kind of, you know, more like, oh man, like she's just holding it for too long. I don't know. I think she's got more legs with that.
You know, if you can get Charlotte Flair, that would be nice.
Or Sasha Marcus. I mean,
Sasha coming in and beating her, that would be wild.
When they brought that, you know, there's just so much that's happened. And like the reports that Sasha has been released and potentially Naomi too. I mean, it's a lot of names. Again,
I would pounce on the opportunity to get Sasha. And you know, I know that we're talking about a loaded roster, but you want to talk about name recognition and equity buildup in a person, not only because of WWE, but because of her acting career. I mean, she is the number one female I would be going for right now.
100%. You have all these other names too with Thunder Rosa, Jade, Athena, Ruby Soho, Tony Storm. You know, you have great women wrestling names on there. So I mean, make the most of it. It's just so tough with the huge roster and only so much television time.
Yeah, just got to be smart about it.
You got to be smart about it. Marcus, you know, this is obviously non AEW related, but wrestling as a whole, holy shit, Marcus.
Holy shit.
What do you think this whole thing with McMahon, you know, and these other accusations or allegations coming out and like him stepping away, quote unquote, as the CEO and, you know, the chairman, but he's still in the creative control. But all this other reports coming out, Marcus, what does this say? What does all this kind of mean for AEW? If you have any kind of perspective from it?
Well, hard to say on the impact it would have on AEW, but you know, if you look to the past in the steroid trial, you know, it was a combination of that situation plus Hogan making the jump plus the invention of Nitro that all of a sudden created the beginning of the shift, and then that shift was just shoved right over the edge of the cliff when Hall and Nash it was just shoved over the edge of the cliff when Hall and Nash made the jump. You know, so it's to me, those were kind of like extenuating circumstances. However, you know, I think that I don't think much is going to change. If Vince doesn't go to jail, he's going to continue running that company. He's just on paper not going to be running the company. You know, he'll be.
Yeah, but from a public eye perception, if he's still like actively doing stuff, those reports are going to come out like that he's still creatively doing shit. So, I mean, it could be in statement that he's not creatively doing something, but like when it comes proving the pudding or whatever, you know, he's back there and he's doing it. So like word's going to get out that he's doing it. And then, I mean, he's either going to have to, I think somebody a Twitter user mentioned about like, oh, it's nothing. We're going to not see anything happen for a while. I kind of see something happening sooner than later. I don't know. Where do you stand on that with McMahon? You think he's just going to keep running creative, you know, despite all this stuff, these, you know, all this hush money and, did you read any of the allegations? Are you aware of?
I mean, I haven't read the details, but I'm familiar with what's going on. I think that a normal person would say, all right, I'm in my 70s anyways. I'm done. I'm already rich. My daughter can just run the company. It's fine. I'm done. I don't think that Vince is a normal person. So I think that he's going to continue running the company over the phone. I don't think he's going to be backstage, but I think that any decision that they make creatively, he's going to be getting emailed these scripts that they do. I think that all the business decisions, any moves that the company makes, I think it's all going to run through him. Like nothing's going to change, just his proximity is going to change. Like that's really how I see this whole thing playing out.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, what a wild time in wrestling, huh? Holy shit!
It is.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and like it's it's like this stuff with Vincent. What's happening with AEW and everything. It's just like constantly shifting things. A lot of intrigue going on. Marcus, I mean, we have to talk about this. Who has taken quite a rise, even more so since we last recorded, was FTR. They're doing a lot. They have 3 titles, and they're like one of the biggest baby faces in AEW, which I think in turn means in pro wrestling in a lot of ways.
And Dax is getting acknowledged in the way that he should, which is as one. And this is not taking anything away from Cash. Cash is phenomenal too, but Dax is getting the recognition he deserves as one of the best workers in the world right now.
Yeah,
bar none. Which I mean is saying a lot. There's a lot of really phenomenal workers out there, but man, that guy is unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. It's been they're neat to see. I love the old school vibe that they're giving off. And a lot of like from that in the Blackpool Combat Club, where you have these guys that are really just like working and kicking some ass kind of thing, is giving that kind of reestablishing another kind of identity of like, hey, that's the kind of wrestling we're like into and grew up on in a lot of ways, where it's just like, okay, you work a certain style like Bret Hart or whatever, but like, Cody Rhodes left AEW, that his matches stood out. And if you position even guys like from an Eddie Kingston or anybody to that effect, Danielson, Claudio, and FTR, Punk, you still get that a little bit, where it's like you still get a story, you still get certain things like that, where it's not all the high flying stuff or anything like that, and that there's I think it's like a wrestling's at its best when it's a variety show. So. There's stuff for that. And I know I'm all over the place here, but I really love the work that the Young Bucks are doing, like from a persona perspective, and they're great. They're a great tag team. Like, I think that's indisputable. I don't care if you don't like the high flying stuff or what. I think they're an awesome tag team and they're one of the best going. So,
I
agree. So, but I want to see what else there. Oh, Marcus, I wanted to touch about this too. Christian Cage turning heel. Another one of your boys. And hey, guess who else turned heel with him? You've been wanting it. Luchasaurus. How do you think about all this?
Yeah. I didn't get exactly what I wanted with Luchasaurus. I wanted him to be a heel, but I wanted him to drop the Luchasaurus name, get some other name, keep a mask, but maybe a different, more creepy mask. Because he's just such a big, intimidating looking dude. But, he was getting in the ring looking like a fucking goof with
Help me out here. His horns, were they upright when he was a babyface and now they're down, or have they always been down?
I think they've always been down, but I cannot say 100% definitively. Dumb. But no, I mean, I like Luchasaurus in general. Like that's what frustrated me about Luchasaurus in the past, is that I like him, and I am like, man, I see huge potential in this guy, big potential. But he's just got to learn to use himself right, and I hope that he gets used right. So I think being a heel is a step in the right direction. But that being said, it's, I would like to see the dinosaur gimmick, as John Howard is pointing out. I want to see the dinosaur gimmick go away, and I want to see him become like this fucking creep. And again, dude, like, where's Abaddon? We haven't seen her in forever. I think that it could be money for both of them to be paired up in some way, where she's like kind of pulling the strings and turning him into this fucking evil creep.
I would not necessarily. What if, like, I think maybe like we see this Christian Cage kind of descent into madness and stuff. He's got like the Steve Jobs fucking look now with the turtleneck and the almost like he looks like Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park almost, where he's just like, hey,
what if that became the gimmick?
Yeah.
That would be terrible. No, I disagree. I like Christian Cage kind of is almost like a solo act, but like one of those guys who's like such a savvy veteran and just keeps getting the better of people.
Well, I like how he's manipulating almost. Like, I think that's great. I think it's a good take for him. And like fucking Matt Hardy coming out and calling him the Michael Jordan of assholes. That was so good.
Dom, the wrestling world is thirsty for some campy stuff. And I think that
Is it?
Abaddon and Luchasaurus in a campy-ish, it's like a horror gimmick. I would scratch my itch.
Have you seen? Are you aware of the male models on SmackDown?
I saw some male models on NXT at one point.
Oh no, there's male models now, and Eli Drake is like their fashion. He's like the manager of it. It's fucking tremendous.
That's heat, brother. That's
That's
heat, brother.
heat right there, dude. That is heat. Oh, it's so good. They came out. It's like Mansoor and Mace came out, and they're fucking this week. So like they were introduced last week, and they were walking down the runway, and like fucking Eli Drake is just like doing like the fashion show, kind of like, oh, look at the like going on. It's so funny.
That's good stuff.
And so this week they came out in golf attire, like
that's a great idea,
isn't it?
Yes, and it's very much like my runway royalty gimmick in WCW rewritten.
Yeah, just better
executed. I don't know, man. I had like the photographers at ringside.
I don't think you can talk about this show unless you fucking do it, okay? So how about that?
No, it's like I think that kind of thing works. Look, I'm not saying over the top ridiculous campy, but like you get people with that campy shit, especially when it comes to like the horror stuff. Look at the Kane gimmick. It was basically like a blatant ripoff of like Friday the 13th and that sort of a thing. But it was
great.
Yes, the voice box was great. The backstory with fucking Paul Heyman. Or not Paul Heyman, Paul Bear is like, I'm your father to the Undertaker. Yeah, he was like the king. When the Undertaker found out he's like his dad, and there's that moment like, no, it's just ridiculous, over the top, campy, but it was fucking awesome.
I'm with you on that. Like, you need like a big weird ass storyline that's like really not. It's not real, but it's like, hey,
but it's
just
real
for this.
It's entertainment and it's fun. And like, look, do I really think that the Young Bucks are doing a front flip and spiking somebody's head into the mat? No, I know that it's not. I know it's a fucking work, okay? But like, I still like to suspend my disbelief. And part of suspending my disbelief would be having like this horror gimmick and just make it well executed. Like, as long as it's not a stupid storyline, everybody will be like, boy, this is dumb. But what's gonna happen next? If
the Fiend, I thought was well executed starting off.
At the start,
the Firefly Funhouse with the Fiend, with him like slowly eliminating people, fucking creepy. I was creeped out. Like, as a viewer, I was creeped out because who's he gonna get next? What's gonna happen to these people or these talents that he's taking out? Like, it felt like a horror movie. But then when you have a champion like Seth Rollins, who's supposed to be a top babyface in your company, and he's screaming like a bitch,
right? It's not good. Not good. But like the Firefly Funhouse and the multiple personalities, and it was a cool idea. It was a cool gimmick.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, dude, him and Abaddon like behind the scenes pulling the strings, and like him kind of looking like he's slowly losing his fucking mind from it. Like, I think that would be incredible.
You know what? And I could get behind that here. If you have Christian Cage running this show a little bit. You have him starting off and like, oh fuck, I just spilled a button. No, I didn't. Never mind, I had a cap on. But you have Christian Cage running the show a little bit. But to your point, heck, you get Wyndham Rotunda in there too. But like, you have them fucking push Christian Cage out, almost like they did with the Judgment Day did with Edge here recently, but do it better and prolong it a little bit fucking more, at least, please. But have that happen. And then I think you have something cooking there, and you can get Christian Cage to kind of go and manipulate somebody else or do something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how I would get out of it now. Just because it's like it's a thing now where they're together. I don't know, because like if you have a heel Abaddon and come and try to manipulate Luchasaurus away from Christian Cage, and that takes the heat off of Christian Cage, in my opinion. So it's kind of a hard one to get out from under. Yeah,
Marcus. So we had this week. We also had Dark Order say they're not going away. Now we lost how many members? So it looked like Alan Angels is gone. Stu Grayson is gone. I think Cole Cabana is now gone. But this week on Dynamite, they're here to stay. I think something needs to happen though for them to stay. Like, you know,
I think it sucks. I think that the storyline just needs to
something needs to go. I almost think you can't call them Dark Order anymore. You know, you need to do, if you're going to have them together, you have to have something happen, because right now I know it was a feel good moment in Rochester to do that, but it needs something. It needs something different, and you need something to change it, because that was a feel good moment. If I was in control of this personally, that would have been my, hey, we're done, but thank you for what everybody's done, and there's no better way to end it here in Rochester, you know?
Right.
And do it that way, because you have to have a plan for this group, because either way, it's like, we like those guys, but we don't want to see them take up our TV time because there's no story behind it, or what are they there for? You know?
Exactly.
So,
here's the direction it appears to be going is Hangman Page, right? He comes out and does the save. So it's like he's buddying up with those guys. At the end of it, there was all those like, hey, high fives, everyone. And they were like on the ramp, and it was like feel good, happy, joy moment. And I don't like it. And
I'm right with you. No offense to QT Marshall or anything like that, but like, you look at, to position Hangman Page as this world champion who, defeated Kenny Omega, who was unstoppable, and like he established himself as a champion, and whether that storyline took the right trajectory or the proper trajectory, or he worked and they didn't utilize him right, either way, he's no longer has the title. You want to keep him elevated to a level where he doesn't seem diminished. You're coming out to stop QT Marshall, because of ties with Dark Order. I don't know. You need something. If you were going to do that, he has to do something big also on the show to make him.
And isn't this the first time that we've seen him since he lost to CM Punk?
No, because Marcus wrestled at Forbidden Door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, still, it's like he's, not that long ago he was working with CM Punk, and now he's like, hey, QT Marshall, quit harassing this child.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, it's very cringy. And look, and DJ makes a point. Do you think they're keeping him together because of Brody Jr.? Maybe. And look, I think it's awesome. I love the fact that they're, it's kind of like this community that's rallied around this kid who lost his father, and I think that that's fantastic. However, I think that Dominic made a point where you could still pay your respects and make sure that this kid is featured and his mom, has a home with AEW forever, and still get rid of the Dark Order. I think that they should have disbanded the Dark Order, but you can still have this kid involved.
Have 10 carry on part of the legacy. Like, if you want something like that, do something with him where he's like, okay, he's still indirectly represents Dark Order. Or
the fact that his name is 10. Still, it's Preston Vance.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you just referred to him as 10 to me is like, this storyline sucks and it's dead. You've got like numbers for people, and I know that that's been the thing since the start, but to me that felt like it was going to phase out, but it hasn't.
And if Brody Lee was still around and stuff like that, I'm sure there was going to be a great direction, or like something was going to happen.
It was becoming interesting with Brody Lee. They had that dog collar match, and he was like backstage hitting people with rolled up paper. Yeah,
it was entertaining, but it was also like, hey, this guy's a fucking badass, and like that kind of thing.
Right. Well, it sort of worked where he's got all these goofy little minions, but he's like this kind of unhinged overlord for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's time for it to go. I'm fed up with it. Unfortunately, you want everybody to have work and keep their jobs and all that sort of thing, have their contracts renewed. But it's not good and hasn't been good. Mm-hmm. And like, it's Hangman, like, it just feels like, hey, we don't have anything for Hangman Page, don't really have anything for Dark Order guys, let's get them together, and Hangman's over, so he'll help get the group over. No, I don't think it's going to happen because he doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And we've already been there before. We've been there.
He didn't work with them at all from the start because he's like this kind of like badass, like I don't need anybody, hammer a beer in one, in like one big gulp, sort of like a badass rugged cowboy. And then it's like, hey, here's these guys, this band of misfits, and you're going to be buddies. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of buries him. Would Stone Cold ever be friends with those guys? I think that's
he would have stunned a couple of them.
He would 100% be stunning them. So yeah, it's Ness just said it perfectly. Cowboys are loners.
That's right. Outlaws. You want outlaws.
Dom, I gotta roll. Let's wrap this fucking thing.
Okay, I wanted to get something that hasn't been touched upon at all, but you see it on a weekly basis, basically. Kip Sapien just kind of lingering in the background.
Yeah, don't like it. Not
you don't
crazy
like
about
it?
No.
Do you think what's going to be the payoff with this?
No idea. Where's Penelope Ford?
It's a great point. Where's Penelope Ford?
She's awesome. I love watching her work. Where the fuck has she been?
Where's she been?
Kip Sabian is wearing a box over his head, and he's apparently super jacked now, and he's starting to take these steps and wanting to get more opportunities, and it's just like what. It's nothing. It's a nothing story. It doesn't make any sense.
Do you think this? I think it's not necessarily a bad state to be in because
Steven says Ford has been injured. Okay.
Oh, good call.
Thank you, Steven.
I don't think it's a bad state to be in because he's not being on air in some useless kind of thing. He's just kind of in the background, and
it's almost worse.
I don't think it is because if you're going to utilize him at some point, maybe there's going to be some sort of payoff. I was just intrigued by it because I remember I was just watching the segment. I want to say maybe it was I don't know if it was during the Eddie Kingston interview or something like that, but like I just saw him sitting. I was like, "There's fucking Kip Sapien right there, just hanging out like with the box on his head." So I'm thinking there's something. I mean, he wouldn't just be there. I think there's going to be some sort of something happening.
I don't know. And look, I don't have any information on this, but couldn't you almost see it like, hey man, like Kip Sabian is showing up at TVs because he's expected to, probably, obviously. Maybe he's even working on Dark. I don't know. Maybe he is. But like he's at TV. Like I could almost see him going up to Tony Khan like, hey, you mind if I go out in the crowd and just like kind of have my presence out there? And Tony Khan being like, yeah, sure. So there might be
not a bad move on his part though. If that
sure, get some extra exposure. Absolutely, I'm fully on board for it. But it's just it's weird. It's not doing anything. And like if there's not a payoff, like how much more WCW do you get? You just have like something happening, and then it's like it just happened.
What was that?
There's no reason. It just happened on national TV.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what to think about it. Dom, let's take one more from DJ here. What are your thoughts on the Jericho Fireball stuff? I think it's interesting.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not normally like the fancy crazy showbiz guy, but I like the fact that Jericho's sort of leaning into the whole like silly
entertainers.
Yeah, I'm an entertainer sort of a deal.
And I love that they came out in like fucking boy band outfits for a blood and guts match.
Yes. It kind of it works.
It does work. Yeah, I like what Jericho's doing. Jericho looks great. And yeah, enjoy Jericho while he's here because at some point, guys like that not going to be here. And, that's the thing. So,
Dom, what was John Howard's theory prediction? I didn't see it.
No thoughts on my theory. Let me take a look here, John. We'll come back. Let's take a look. We might over how far it is. If you can, John, write it again so we can get it up. Marcus, something that isn't laying stale around is you. You are
oh boy.
You are quite busy, aren't you?
Just moving and shaking, baby.
What do you got going on? Hey, champ.
A lot of stuff, Dominic. Adfreeshows.com, guys. You got to check it out. Go to adfreetrial.com and give it a try for free at the Slapnut tier. But, look, if you like what Dominic and I are doing, they've got some great podcasts over there with guys who were pro wrestlers, Hall of Famers, just some incredible personalities. Yeah, we've got Mick Foley signing on. Kevin Nash is now going to be part of like our sister network. So we've got some really, really fun stuff going on. So go to adfreeshows.com, check it out, see if you can get a subscription over there, even if it's at the $9 a month agreement, man, the amount of content and stuff you get from it, so worth it. So please go check that out if you get the opportunity. And yeah, Dominic, we're going to be in Nashville coming up for SummerSlam weekend, but more importantly, Dominic, for Ric Flair's last match. The Nature Boy is going to walk that aisle one last time. And style and profile like only he can. Dance all night. Stay a little longer.
Jeez. Huh? What is that undercard we got on there too?
An unbelievable undercard. And it's going to be at the Municipal Auditorium, which is a historic venue there in Nashville. So
Flair.
And by the way, it's happened. You know, I believe SummerSlam is on Saturday. Ric Flair's show is on Sunday. So you just have a full blown. We've got StarCast events that weekend too. So it's like a giant wrestling convention, guys. If you are a wrestling fan and you're able to get to Nashville on the weekend of what is it, Dominic? It's like the 28th through the 31st. You need to go to Nashville. It is going to be as good as it gets. Go to starcast.com and get some more details, and go to RicFlairsLastMatch.com and get some details on that, because guys, it is an unbelievable event, and Dominic and I will be there.
Hey, you know what else you can get on that site? Go to Box of Gimmicks and the Horseman. I'll stand up right now.
Look at that.
I made this, baby. For Arn.
So, yeah, the Enforcer, Arn Anderson, needed a new t-shirt design, and Dominic answered the call.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go to boxgimmicks.com. Check out the Four Horsemen shop. Guys, there's just this is a tip of the iceberg. There's so much cool stuff going on. But really, most importantly, more than anything, go to starcast.com. Check that out. Go to adfreeshows.com. Check that out. Go to RicFlairsLastMatch.com. Check that out. Because, guys, we're talking about wrestling history. Right here about to happen at the end of this month is wrestling history.
StarCast 5 is going to be a fucking blast.
And you can be part of it, gang.
Mm-hmm. Okay, John, let's get to yours. This is WWE related, but I will happily get this for you. Theory wins the U.S. title from Lashley, then cashes in the case on Reigns and Lashley and wins both world titles. Yeah, I guess that could kind of work. I kind of like that. Especially if they're putting all their chips behind Theory. People have their opinions about him. I interviewed him at WrestleMania, and I had a good interview with him and everything like that. But I mean, hey, there's reports about him too. So, it just kind of depends. If that's who you're running behind, if that's who Vince for ever how long he's going to be there, if that's who he wants to put his chips behind, then yes, that makes perfect sense to do. I think from your perspective of pitching it as an angle and a storyline makes awesome sense. I think that's how I would do it, honestly, because you want to get both titles on somebody that's there all the time. Reigns is doing his own thing, and Reigns is his own star. To that, all that being, and that's kind of an out to have, if you have somebody cash in and get the win, you're not necessarily damaging Reigns and you're not necessarily damaging Lesnar. It's just moving on. But if you want Reigns' loss to mean more, I wouldn't necessarily do that then. Just kind of my opinion. So, Marcus, do you have any thoughts on that? I know you don't watch WWE a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've caught a little bit of Austin Theory. Nesha's saying she doesn't see it, and I don't see it with his gimmick. I see it with the dude. So I like this whole selfie business, which I don't know a ton about because I don't really watch that much WWE, but the whole like selfie sort of a deal, I'm like, don't like it.
Not kind of my thing, no.
But I see potential in the human being.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want to plug real quick, Mark?
No, man, I gotta split.
You gotta roll out, mama. So do I. But hey, yes. I work for MLW. I do their weekly recaps and check them out. I think they're the best wrestling promotion going week in and week out, pound for pound, best bang for your buck. Podcast heat. Check out the new Kevin Nash show coming this Monday. You are going to, I'm telling you, this podcast, and I'm not just saying this podcast has the ability, the capability to reach outside of wrestling. I think the dynamic between Sean Oliver and Big Kev is super good. The first episode is going to be on Scott Hall, my favorite wrestler of all time, but they touch upon so much in that episode, and there's so much from funny to emotional to everything is in that podcast. You are not going to want to miss this. Tune into that. Tune into the Gentleman Villain podcast with William Regal. You get an education, full-blown education, breakdown, everything. One of a kind of show. You get a lot of fun with the Road Dog. Oh, you didn't know podcast. So much stuff. Him and Ryan have great chemistry together, and they just have a fucking blast. And it's a fun show to be a part of. Matt Hardy is a great balance of all of that. The extreme life of Matt Hardy. Dang, he gives such great insight. Modern day star in the business right now. Gives his perspective week in and week out, but goes back and touches upon the star power that is the Hardy Boys. So tune into that. Wiser Wrestling is also a great show that you can. They just had Kurt Angle on there as a special guest, but you get a whole different flavor of it all. So those are some of the podcasts I work for. But very much so, they're a lot of fun. I sit in on these, willingly just sit on these just because I love doing it. So, okay, I think that's all I got.
Out of breath. All right, guys. Steven, happy birthday again.
Yeah, happy birthday,
John,
guys.
Everybody,
Awesome
good to see
be
you
back.
all. Yeah, great to see you. We'll try to be more consistent. Obviously, that weekend of Ric Flair's last match, Dominic and I will both be out of town, so we won't be able to record. But we will try to be more consistent for you guys. But we will see you next time right here on 2 Dynamite Dudes.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.